Now, this is a topic that quite a number of our viewers have suggested to us for a full Lost Railways episode, but quite honestly, there wasn't a lot of information about it, and what we do have isn't really meaty enough to produce a full episode, and videos about it have been done before. But recently, we've discovered more material that gives a lot more context around the situation at the time, which means it may be possible to adapt it to a full episode one day. So why is this an extras video? Well, the simple answer is that we have no money to make the full episode right now. We'll tell you more on how you can help us make the full episode happen in a bit. But in case you never get around to it, let this be our video about it for now. The distance between Khatib and Yio Chu Kang MRT stations is the longest distance between any two consecutive MRT stations in Singapore, at 4.9 kilometers. It also has the longest stretch of MRT track that's on ground level, something rare for a train network that's predominantly on viaducts or underground. The reason for this long distance has been speculated since the 90s and 2000s, but nothing concrete came out until about 2005 when then Minister for Trade and Industry Lim Hng Kiang shed some light on what was going on at the time. In the late 80s, Singapore was trying to boost its tourism and had ideas of building a complex that integrates a theme park, hotels, fast food and merchandising outlets. A few examples of such plans are the Singapore Entertainment Centre or SEC and an ASEAN Cultural Park. But these plans either failed or were shelved for various reasons. At around this same period, the Walt Disney Company, which was on a gradual decline for quite a few decades before, was just starting to experience a renaissance, particularly with their feature animation division having some very successful box office hits. But their theme parks business was somehow not keeping up, with the opening day launch of Euro Disney in Paris having an abysmal turnout of 25,000 people out of the anticipated 500,000. Nevertheless, when they were trying to expand their reach in Southeast Asia by establishing its Southeast Asian division in 1994, it was natural that Singapore was the perfect place for a new Disneyland, as the country was the top consumer of Disney products per capita at that time. So, Disney asked the Singapore government for 300 hectares of land for its theme park. To provide such a large piece of land, one place that made sense was an area around the Lower Seletar Reservoir, as it was accessible both by road with the SLE and by public transport with the MRT going right past it. So Singapore also offered to build a new MRT station between Yio Chu Kang and Khatib to serve this theme park. The negotiations seems to have progressed quite a bit, until Disney demanded that the Singapore government sell the 300 hectares of land at a very low cost, and also wanted them to take the bulk of the development and management costs, as they couldn't afford the risk of another monumental failure like Euro Disney. The Singapore government, believing that theme parks should be run mainly by the private sector, refused, and the deal fell through. Disney then approached Hong Kong instead, and surprisingly, the Hong Kong government was more agreeable to take a larger stake in the park as Disney wanted. And voila, that's how we have the Hong Kong Disneyland today. But even after Hong Kong Disneyland opened, that was not the last time Disney eyed on Singapore for a new theme park. There were reports that Disney was eyeing on building a park in Marina East or on Sentosa, but for the latter, we know it didn't happen because we got Universal Studios instead. However, the building of that theme park necessitated the destruction of another beloved railway, which we have discussed about in one of our main episodes. So that leaves us with an unusually long, albeit scenic journey between two MRT stations. There's a question: if the Disneyland station had been built, what would that station be called? Some say it would have been called Lentor, which kind of makes sense as the road beside the tracks is called Lentor Avenue. So that means in an alternate reality, we would have a different Lentor station than the actual Lentor station on the Thomson East Coast Line today. But I'm more inclined to believe that the station would have been more explicitly called Singapore Disneyland, or something like that, since the Hong Kong MTR had done a similar thing when they built their Disneyland Resort line for the theme park. I'd like to give a special shout out to this article on thekopi.co website, as it went into even more details that we didn't have time to talk about in this video. The link will be in the description below. If you would like to help us make this story into a full Lost Railways episode, we have recently launched a new Buy Me a Coffee page where you can tip us any amount you want, or even a monthly contribution which you can cancel anytime. Your contributions will help us continue to create content on this channel, and perhaps even an opportunity to make the full episode happen, as such an endeavour will require quite a bit of funding, of which we are also on the lookout for other sources of it. You can also support us by simply liking and subscribing. Thank you guys for watching, and we shall see you next time.